Hello, and welcome to Ethical Procurement. My name is Alejandro E. Gallardo. The course is Adm545, Values and Ethics in Administration. Professor is Dr. John A. Rushing, and today's date is April 28, 2014. The table of contents for this presentation will include a brief slide around defining procurement, and I'll give a couple of examples of procurement versus the traditional purchasing function that we're used to hearing about. I'll give one example on purchasing goods and another example on purchasing services. We will talk a little bit about the ethical dilemmas in procurement, the causes of unethical behavior in procurement, some of the recommended solutions, and the sources and references. So what is procurement? Procurement is basically the buying and or contracting of goods and services at the right price, at the specified quality, and delivered at the required time. So if we go with this first example, this is a purchase of goods or materials. Okay, bid A is for $24,000, and this particular cruiser has a lifespan of 4 years. Bid B is for $21,000, and this particular cruiser has a lifespan of 3 years. So in a traditional purchasing function, they would likely go with bid B because it's the cheaper of the two. But in a procurement function, we will analyze a bid to determine if the additional $3,000 is worth the additional year in lifespan. We will also look at other elements such as maintenance costs to determine what we call the total cost of ownership, or TCO. In this next example, this is for services. So if we take manufacturing of 200,000 polo shirts, the first bid is for $1.75 per shirt, and this comes from a new factory in Asia, which just opened their doors. And bid B is $2 per shirt, but it comes from an established factory in Asia that has several industry certifications, and we've done business with them in the past. So again, if you take the traditional purchasing model, they would likely go with bid A because it's the cheaper of the two. At 25 cents savings per shirt, you're going to save about $50,000 on this particular order. Analyzing it, under the new procurement function model, we will first determine if this supplier is even qualified to do this work. Does it have all the industry certifications? Will it pass our own internal audits? And do they even have the financial strength to produce this order? So obviously, a service like this, and we've seen examples in the past in apparel production, the reputation of the company is at stake if you choose a supplier that violates certain labor laws or even environmental laws. So now we get into what are the ethical dilemmas in procurement, and there's really two. So the first is the violations of processes by individuals or those people that are actually doing the buying, right? So this is when you hear cases about government officials or just regular workers in private companies taking kickbacks from suppliers for sending business their way. There's also colluding with vendors, and that's basically giving them inside information on when bids are going to go out, what should they price themselves at so they can be in the competition, or even tampering of bids when they come in, accepting late bids, etc. The other ethical dilemma is the selection of substandard suppliers, right? When companies don't do a good job of qualifying these vendors. We contract with firms that violate laws, right? Environmental laws, labor laws, and also the purchase of substandard raw materials. So if you're an automobile manufacturer and you're buying cheap paint, you could have quality issues or claims in the future. Paint may not be very safety sensitive, but if the recent example with GM with the ignitions they were purchasing from a third party, that could be a potential issue that impacts human life. If we look at some of the causes of unethical behavior in procurement, there are basically four categories, right? The first one is the culture of the organization. There's a general culture of cutting corners. Everybody's really more concerned around cost than they are about process or safety or even following the law. The next one is the role of management. So the worst one is management could even be in on the corruption. They could be the one telling you to select to a certain supplier over another. But also there could be a lack of oversight, right? The structure, the way it is, the as-is structure may promote fraud and allow people to cut corners or defraud the company. The other one is resources. So some companies may not have enough people to follow all their processes. So there may be a good supplier qualification process, but you may not have enough people to go to do the audits and verify that. Some of the procurement practitioners may not be compensated or recognized appropriately, and that could cause them to, defraud the company. No clear processes or systems of checks and balances. So that could be another issue where people are just free to defraud the company and nobody's really checking up on them. The other is competency. So we have an unskilled workforce. We're putting people that do not know how to handle these situations in buying jobs, handling multi-million-dollar contracts. And there's also no continuing education or formal learning and development programs for these procurement practitioners. Some of the recommended solutions, therefore, I think the first one is really not around procurement, but is establishing a foundational value and ethics policy for the organization as a whole, right? And this is something where all the functions can clearly understand what is the mission and vision of the organization, and how are they going to go about getting there, right? What values and ethics are they going to use? And this should be clear, obviously communicated broadly among employees and suppliers. Okay. The next one is to develop a code of conduct for procurement that establishes clear processes with checks and balances. So that means a lot of things. That means ensuring that you have a supplier qualification process that makes sure that you're mitigating all the risks involved with that particular process. So, for example, if you're in a factory that's painting automobiles, what is the factory doing with the runoff water for that particular process, right? What is their wastewater treatment process? The other is around segregation of duties. For those of you familiar with accounting and generally accepted accounting principles, in segregation of duties, we make sure that the person that's ordering the material is not receiving the material. The person that's ordering it is not authorizing the payment of the invoice. So that way you have several people involved in the approval process, and there could be an opportunity to catch any fraudulent activity. The other is a good policy around reporting conflicts of interest. So that means you report up front if your brother works for a supplier or your cousin works for a company that your employer does business with, and what that does is it allows management to have clear visibility of what the potential conflicts of interest are up front, and that way they could avoid any perceptions of fraud in the future. The other ones we talked about developing a comprehensive learning and development program for procurement practitioners. So initial onboarding, when a new employee comes in, how are they trained? Are they aware of all the policies around the actual nuts and bolts of the procurement process, but also the values and ethics of the organization? Continuing education for procurement practitioners, and also very important, encouraging professional associations, joining, the American Society of Purchasing and Inventory Control or other supply chain organizations that even offer certifications for procurement professionals. And lastly, implementing a comprehensive audit and oversight policy, right? So make sure that everybody knows that random audits can come at any time, and a procurement process can be audited. And also ensuring that there's a hotline structure or somewhere where employees are encouraged to report inappropriate activity, and that there will be no repercussions, right? This slide is just a compilation of the sources I used for this presentation. There's 2 journal articles that came from the Summit Journal on Canadian public sector purchasing. and there's a journal article from the Journal of Business and Ethics, and another one from the Journal of Public Procurement. Okay, these are the actual works cited in APA style, and that's the end. So, as I mentioned here, it's, as I stop recording this video, this will end this semester, and it's been a pleasure collaborating with anybody and with everybody here. And if there are any questions with regards to ethics and procurement, please shoot me an email. Thank you. Have a great day.